Good evening. It's Mr. Tom here with another Sunday school lesson. This time we're in John chapter 15. And we finished up last week. We were talking about Jesus as the great consoler and how he was consoling the disciples and telling them that he was going to leave them shortly, which probably took them by surprise, but he was going to send the Holy Spirit to be with them. And at the end of chapter 14, he tells them, let's go from here. Remember, they were up in like a dining room area and having the Last Supper. And he takes them outside because he's telling them about the vine and that Jesus is the vine and his Father is the vine dresser. And so he's about to share with them the relationship that they have with him by showing them that he has this same relationship with his Father, that he does whatever the Father tells him, and he's obedient to his Father, and yet his Father prunes him, and Jesus is about to undergo the greatest pruning at the end of this week with Good Friday. So in John chapter 15, he says, I am the vine and my Father is the vine dresser, and he expresses that relationship between the vine and the branches, because as he'll go on, he tells the disciples later that bearing fruit is the key for being a disciple. And in order for them to bear fruit, they're going to have to stay connected to the vine. While the Father is the vine dresser and Jesus is the vine, we are the branches. And so we are tied into the vine. And in so doing, we receive from Jesus the sustenance that we need in order to bear fruit. But that's only if we're tied in, and that's only if we are connected with him. Because he will even say specifically, apart from me, you can do nothing. Christianity requires faith. It's not something that's logical necessarily, or it's expected, but it's you may be very bright, you may be tall, you may be talented, or you may not have any of those talents. None of that matters with regards to Christianity. It's God's choosing us and giving us the Holy Spirit to do the things that he calls us to do. And we're not called to do the same thing. And so it's really important, as I always try to tell the kids, not to try to be like anyone else, but just draw close to the Lord and let him guide you to where you would go. We know that with the pruning and all that a gardener does, that it's amazing how you can cut back on trees and things like that. And even though you've cut them back, they actually come back fuller after a very short period of time. What's also distinct is when I do the hedges, there'll be branches that'll fall down, but they'll stay within the bush. And I won't notice it because they're green, they've just been cut. But if I come back a couple of days later, or maybe a week later, then they're brown because they've been cut off from that vine and they no longer have any sustenance, and they're dead and they're dying and all. And so it's very important that we understand this, that we are only as good as we are connected to Jesus. And that's the one relationship in your life and in my life that's paramount. So it's important that we put our love for God first and seek him always. And that, I can tell you, is very challenging. It's very, very rewarding, but it is very challenging. Jesus also tells us something very interesting in this. And he tells this to his disciples. I find it really amazing. He says, you didn't choose me, I chose you from the foundation of the world. And that's quite a statement. That's hard to imagine and all that. And that shouldn't cause us to feel really good about ourselves necessarily, but for us to realize that there is a great responsibility with that. We're very grateful, and it's by his grace that he chose us and all. But he also didn't choose us so that we would just be saved and go sit in heaven and not experience hell, but that we would bear fruit. And so he's called all of us to go out and to spread the gospel, even as it was done to us and for us and all. So choosing him is not the case. It's him choosing us and allowing us to be a part of that. But we can't do that without the vine. And so Jesus is doing this also because he realizes that it's going to be a very traumatic week, that we've talked about. This might be Monday or Tuesday, or maybe Sunday night or so. and Good Friday is coming. And he realizes that the priests are going to do to him whatever they have decreed, and that they will soon, when they're done with him, they will then turn to the disciples. And he's telling this in advance so that when it does happen, they won't be completely taken by surprise. But if they stay hooked into the vine, they'll find sustenance during the difficult times that'll bring them through. And so next week we'll talk further about the Holy Spirit that makes all of this possible. Have a great week.